Thank you, and welcome to the Patriots 300 Level Podcast. My name is Eric. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin. Welcome back for our 37th episode this week, where we'll be previewing the upcoming game this Sunday versus the Baltimore Ravens. As a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pat's 300 Level Pod for up-to-the-minute updates and commentary on news of the day, as well as at our website at pats300levelpod.com. So Kevin, big game this upcoming week versus Baltimore Ravens. Patriots' first game of the season in Gillette. Their homecoming. I believe it's also Vince Wilfork's Patriots Hall of Fame induction ceremony too. So that should be interesting or great enjoyment for Patriots fans in the stands to see and kind of relive Vince Wilfork's 10 years, 11 years with the Patriots. So that should be good. What are your thoughts going into this game?
I think this is going to be kind of a good stretch to see how they're playing. And again, first 4 weeks, they're not going to be perfect. So if they don't play well, it's not going to be something to say, oh, doom and gloom, they suck, they blow, all that sort of thing. But it's a good little mini check barometer, kind of pre-tester thing for them. How are they going to play against the Ravens? How are they going to play against the Packers? And then they have that easier stretch going on afterwards. And I think all that we've seen so far with how Bill kind of treats Lamar, I think they should have a decent route with him. Lamar, again, he's a pretty good quarterback. Depending on how you defend him. What we saw last year and what we saw 2 years ago is that if you defend him the right way, you can stop him really easily because Lamar. And again, the second I say this, going to be someone that comments on a YouTube video saying we don't know anything because it's going to be some Ravens fan. But Lamar is not a good quarterback for an actual in the
pocket quarterback.
As a traditional quarterback, he's not a good quarterback that way. And the thing that makes Lamar really special is he's not a traditional quarterback. He's the one, he makes all the moves with his feet, and he's not technically a running back, but you could say that when you get him out of the pocket and he's running around and that's when he does those special things. But if you hold him to be one of those traditional standard pocket quarterbacks, or keep him in that pocket, that phone booth kind of thing situation, that's where he doesn't play that well. And that's how they beat him last time. That's how a lot of teams beat Lamar.
Especially the first thing that comes to mind is the game last year versus Miami. Where the Dolphins, I believe, were 1-8 at the time, 1-7, 1-8. And what they did is they played a lot of, they didn't play as much linebackers. They played a lot of secondary safeties, cornerbacks, just because of the speed was able to match up with Lamar. And because of that, he wasn't able to get outside the pocket. He wasn't able to rush up the field because you had guys fast enough to contain him. And that's something where he just didn't have a good game, and that led to Miami coming back and having a resurgence down the end of the season. But that's a perfect way where you have Flores, who's a good defensive-minded coach, was able to see what other teams did to stop him before, but add his own little wrinkle too.
And then that's going to be a big thing that's going to help the Patriots, where they're very deep in that safety situation. They're very deep in the secondary. And even some of the linebackers, like Mack Wilson, he's a linebacker. He's basically a safety. His size, his speed, he's really quick. We saw it last week against the Steelers, where he looked a lot more comfortable as a linebacker. And it's another thing we kind of forgot to really mention on our last pod, but he did take over that Raekwon McMillan like we kind of predicted after the first game. And I think a lot of the players that they have is going to really kind of be well for them. The one thing that I am interested in seeing is how do they contain him? How do they make sure they set the edge and make sure that they don't over pursue him? And that's something where Kyle Van Noy was really good at doing, and Hightower is really doing well at doing. And they don't have those same players. And how's it going to work out? Judon, I think, is going to do really well because he did a good job the last 2 weeks with Tua and then versus Trubisky. And who's going to be the other player on the opposite side that's going to not break containment? And if they do that, they're probably going to win the game, because if you keep him limited to that box, if he has to throw, or if he tries to run up the middle and you kind of stuff him there, he's not going to get too many yards. And I think they're going to have a really good success with that. Just we know how to scheme him. Can they execute it? That's the big question.
And I think this year, especially, I know in 2019, that was the Patriots' first loss of the season, where they were 8-0. They went into Baltimore and they lost. And they had an idea of how to stop him, but they just weren't fast enough, I think. And then in 2020, they were able to beat them. And that was the year with Cam Newton. And I think this year, especially with how fast they got at linebacker, adding Mac Wilson as well, but also adding Jabril Peppers. I think we're going to see a lot of Peppers. I think we're going to see a lot of 4 safety, maybe even 5 safety schemes where you have Peppers on the field as a linebacker. You'll have Duggar inside the box, maybe even Phillips inside the box, and you might even have Josh Bledsoe. And you're going to have so much speed where he's not going to be able to escape the pocket or try and run up the field. Where last week he had a 79-yard touchdown run. I don't see that happening this week unless there's just a major just breakdown in a specific play. But also it's going to be interesting to see who they have on the other side. Are they going to use Josh Uche or Anthony Jennings? Because Uche is fast, but he's not someone that has been as productive as you would hope with his skill set. He's fast enough to be on that edge, but is he going to be able to rush the quarterback and not break containment? And then what you said with Judon is through the first 2 weeks, he's been very good. But we saw last year against Josh Allen, especially, granted, he didn't play as well towards the end of the season, but he broke containment. That was something that was an issue for him against Josh Allen, for instance. Are we going to see the same issue with Lamar, or has that something that he worked on a lot in the offseason and we saw through the first 2 weeks where Trubisky and Tua are mobile quarterbacks, but they're not in the same class as Lamar Jackson as a mobile quarterback?
And I think the other thing that kind of hinders the Ravens is that they don't really have a running game besides Lamar Jackson. Their running back group isn't that strong, and they've had some injuries too, which has kind of made that worse. So some of their running backs are hurt, and they haven't had really good success with the running backs this season. Or even really last season at that point too. So that also kind of hinders if you can't run the ball, and then you could put those lighter players on. You don't have to kind of stack the box or anything like that.
No, I agree completely. And that's something where before, a few years ago, you also had Mark Ingram as a running back that could run it up the middle, and you had some diversity. But now, and you have Kenyon Drake as running back. You also have what's his name, J.K. Dobbins. Who they're good, but they're inconsistent. And the Patriots, at least the first 2 weeks of the season, actually had a very good run defense, which is something we didn't really talk about much either. But we'll have to see if their running backs are able to start running, then that's going to open up more option plays, and then Lamar Jackson as well to sprinkle in some runs but if you don't have those running backs getting yards, that's one less thing you have to focus on. Then you just focus on taking out Lamar running the ball too.
So I think one of the other kind of big things to really talk about in this game, other than Lamar, is really their other kind of major playmaker on offense is Mark Andrews. He's big, 6'5", 250. Really quick though at that weight and that height. Runs a 4.67 40-yard dash, and he's a really good tight end. So how do you think they're going to kind of defend him? What are they going to do to kind of prevent him along with Lamar?
Yep. So I think other than limiting Lamar, keeping him inside the pocket, I think the biggest key to this game for the Patriots is limiting Mark Andrews. In my opinion, Mark Andrews is the best tight end in football. I know some people say Travis Kelce, but I think with his age, size, and then also even though he is a receiving tight end, he can also block at least a little better than Kelce. But through 2 games this season, 14 catches, 156 yards and a touchdown. Last season, 107 catches, 1,350 yards and 9 touchdowns. So that's one of their biggest places that they have to stop. They traded Hollywood Brown this offseason. So their number one target is by far Mark Andrews. And if you're able to take him out of the game, then they're going to have a much better chance of success. One thing that we've seen, at least through the first 2 weeks, is the Patriots have been able to take their opposing tight ends out of the game. Gesicki the first week, only 1 catch for 1 yard. Freiermuth did have a touchdown this week against Adrian Phillips. But other than that, he wasn't too active. You have 2 very good safeties that have the size and speed to match up with him, and Kyle Duggar and Adrian Phillips. There's also Jabril Peppers too, but I think at least in this stage of the game, you'll be seeing more of Duggar and/or Phillips on Mark Andrews trying to take him out. You might see some combination where both are covering at the same time, some switches as well. But I think you're going to see a lot of them on Andrews to try and take him out.
Mm-hmm. All right. Kind of moving on to the opposite side.
Just one thing we didn't really talk about as well is the Ravens. They've had a lot of big plays this year, and that's one thing you're going to have to try and limit to is they've had 6 completions of 25 yards or more. And then there's also Lamar Jackson 79-yard touchdown as well. So for the defense, if you limit the big plays, and then or the 3 big keys are keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket, don't let him escape and run and throw on the run, limit Mark Andrews, and then just limit the big plays.
Yep. All right, moving on to the opposite side of the field, the defense. Usually the Ravens are known for having a really good defense. I think some of that kind of lure of the Ravens is kind of going away. Their pass defense has been pretty bad last year, and then even this year, it's not really off to a great start. And then their rushing defense last year was
they were best last year at the run, but part of that was because their pass defense was so bad. And part of it was because they were playing backup practice squad players at cornerback and in the secondary just due to numerous injuries, but also that was one of their weaknesses as well.
Yep. So how do you kind of think that their defense is going to play this year against the Patriots offense?
Yeah, so one of their biggest addition by far was Marcus Williams, safety, formerly of the Saints, who I actually met at last February at the Super Bowl party I went to in Los Angeles. Wish I asked him for money then, since he got a 75-year, $70 million contract. But besides the point, so he is a good big addition to them and should help their secondary. It's tough to say. Flacco had an inconsistent week. He threw the ball almost 60 times and for 300 yards in week 1, but they only scored, I believe, 7 points. And part of that was since they were down, they kept having to throw the ball, hence why there were so many yards. But then you saw Tua also carve them up, especially in the second half. And granted, it was Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, 2 of the better wide receivers in football, combining for 360 yards and 4 touchdowns and 22 catches. And the Patriots don't have wide receivers of that caliber. So it's tough to say. Some people might say, oh, Tua threw for 470 yards, 6 touchdowns against the Ravens, so Mac Jones should be able to do the same. I don't think that's the case. Patriots don't have wide receivers of that caliber, of that speed. But I think what you have to do is, since the Ravens defense is pretty good against the run and weaker against the pass, you want to do spread out the offense, a lot of shotgun, a lot of quick plays, huddle to the line, 2-minute offense, and just throw the ball. Try and incorporate the tight ends into the game as well, because you'll get some mismatches, hopefully, with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. But also Nelson Aguilar, throw in some go routes to him as well, and Kendrick Bourne. And then Jacoby Myers is just your dependable guy on offense. So I think for the Patriots offense, you want to go fast with the passing game and try and spread the field.
Yeah, I think that's a really good plan for them. And I think that's probably how they will do it to try and attack them there. And I think one of the other kind of factors too is that it's their first home game. Usually you get a little bit more room from there. You hopefully should see a little bit more life in the offense just because of that. They won't have to travel or anything like that. So hopefully we will see a little bit more out of them. We've kind of seen a little bit steady progression with them. The offensive line looked better last week. So hopefully we'll see a better Mac Jones this week going forward.
Yep. And then just one more point is something that's going to be big, especially this week, is starting out fast and getting a lead quick and keeping that lead. Whereas if you start fast and then the defense holds them, Ravens, to not score the first few possessions, and if you get some touchdowns those first few possessions, it's going to force the Ravens to throw the ball more, which might, even if Lamar is able to run just because of the amount of time and you have available to catch up. It's one of their more limitations. We saw that in the playoffs the last 2 years, especially when the Titans, for instance, in 2019, they got to a huge lead and Jackson just had to throw the ball. Granted, he got some yards, but since he was just having to throw the ball more and more, that takes away more of his bread and butter and his specialness of being able to run. So that's something where if you're able to get a big lead too, that's going to force the Ravens to throw the ball more. And that's something the Patriots haven't been able to do, especially these first 2 weeks is they haven't started. The first drive they moved the ball but weren't able to really capitalize on it, and then after that they were kind of stagnant the next few drives. So that's something where they have to be sharp from the get-go and score points on those first few drives.
Yep, I agree 100%. And that's the other thing, kind of really too, which puts the Patriots in a better position, not only because Lamar plays worse from behind, but the other thing is that the Patriots play better with the lead because then they can go to their run, which maybe they won't be doing this game just because of how good their run defense is, but maybe it won't matter. Maybe they'll assert their will on them and kind of show they're a tough running football team. So that's the other thing that just helps by playing from a lead. Prediction time. What's your prediction for the game?
So I think my guess is Patriots win 31-20. I think they will get a lead quick, and I think their safety schemes along with their defensive schemes is going to hold Lamar Jackson in check, and I think they'll get a touchdown towards the end of the game, but I think it's the game's not going to be as close as the score predicts.
Yep,
score indicates.
I'm thinking the same thing. I got 31-24, late touchdown by the Ravens to make it closer. I think it's going to be a better week again for the offense for the Patriots. Again, I don't think it's going to be this historic, awesome game, but it's going to be another step in the right direction for them. And we'll see some improvement with Mac and see some improvement with the play calling and see some improvement with. All right, moving on. 5 questions real quick here. We'll kind of bang through these ones. First one, over under 11.5 starts for Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's something that we talked about last episode. Jimmy G coming in, one of his biggest kind of traits is that he's only played in 50% of the games that he was active to start. And what's going to happen here? Is he going to play over under 11.5 games this year?
So just for some context, there's 15 games left. So if you go with the under, you think he's going to miss at least 4 starts. As much as I want to go with the under, I'm going to go with the over. I think he's going to play all 15 games.
Yep, I agree completely too. I think he is going to play every game, and he's not going to miss a game. If he does, he's going to have an injury, but like he did last year. But it's not going to be an injury that makes him miss a game. He is fragile, like a piece of pasta that's not uncooked. But I think that he will make every start because him and his agent know this is really his last opportunity to get a big contract. So he's going to do everything he can to make that money. And Jimmy's all about the dough.
Yep.
Next question. Which 0-2 team is most likely to make the playoffs? We mentioned before last year there wasn't a team that went 0-2 to actually make the playoffs. Kind of a weird stat, and I don't think I think some of these teams will probably make them, but which team is most likely? Panthers, Falcons, Bengals, Raiders, and Titans are all 5 teams that are 0-2 right now.
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing is at least from the AFC, the number 1 seed last year, the Titans, they're 0-2. Granted, they're in a crappy division. So that's a benefit for them. There's the Raiders that they started off slow, but they were the off-season winners this season with getting Josh McDaniels and then going out and getting Chandler Jones, getting Devontae Adams. And then there's the Bengals who made it to the Super Bowl last year. So those are some 3 teams that a lot of people had making the playoffs. I'm going to go with the Raiders just because I think they have too much talent and I think Josh is a good coach. But I also think the Titans have a good chance just because of how horrendous their division is.
Yeah, this was actually a really tough question. Just because of you can make a case really for all of them where
I can't.
Well, not all.
I can't for the Panthers. Not with Matt Rule
not the Panthers or the Falcons. Those 2. I mean, of the AFC, you can make a. I need to correct that. Of the AFC, you can make a case for all 3 teams. Where the Bengals, their division isn't really that great. They've got the Steelers, they've got the Browns, and the Ravens are there too. So
that's true. I guess
it depends on the health of Lamar Jackson, really the health of the team in general. They're banged up. I think their safety. Someone just torn their Achilles from last game. So
for the Ravens, that was a practice or a linebacker that was originally on the practice squad that made the roster.
All right, so maybe he's not that top guy, but they're getting hit. It seems like getting hit by the injury bug again.
Yeah.
Titans, their division, they've got the Colts, where I don't really have faith in them. Texans, where they're not going to do anything this year, and the Jaguars. So realistically, it's probably going to be the Titans, like you had mentioned. But again,
I'm gonna change my. I think all three teams make it.
All right, that's good. And then the Raiders is really the toughest one, where they have the strongest division. They've got the Chargers, again, coach that we don't like. Broncos, they've got a coach that's an absolute moron, but they ended up actually winning that game. And then the Chiefs. So they actually have the hardest road of the three.
Yeah, they have the hardest, but I think they had the most talent out of those three teams.
Yeah. So I would say I'm going to say the Bengals. And the one stipulation is I think the Titans just don't have that much talent anymore, where it's another year older for Derrick Henry. They don't have AJ Brown anymore. Tannehill is an average quarterback at best. And their defensive talent, as good as Vrabel is as a defensive mind, they haven't had the talent on defense in the last maybe 3 years to kind of match up with what he can try and scheme. Yeah. And again, we kind of saw it again. We're taping Monday night. They're getting blown out right now. It's 41-7. Yeah. With 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And again,
and that's a team that they beat last year.
Mm-hmm. So I just don't think they have the weapons to really do what they need to do. So I'm going to say the Bengals.
I think that's a very fair point. The reason why I also think the Titans will is I think the AFC South is garbage, and I think Vrabel is one of the top 5 coaches in the NFL, so he'll find a way, even devoid of talent, to get enough to win that division. They might be 7-10, and they win their division.
Yep, that's not entirely possible.
Yeah, so that's why I think all three will. Is my prediction right now, but I there's no way the Titans make it as a wild card team, but I think that they'll find enough to scrap together 7 wins, which in that division might be enough.
Yep. Next question. Who will be the number 1 seed, the AFC and NFC? I can go first. I think the first one's a pretty easy one. I'm going to go with the Bills. They're just and it's a little scary. Kind of just looking to see how they are. It'll be interesting to see how the Patriots face them. It's again near the end of the season again, which is beneficial for the Patriots. And really the only thing that's going to stop them is I'm not saying I wish or anything like this, but a Josh Allen injury is really the only thing that's going to stop him. And the way he's playing right now, he needs to play a lot smarter. He doesn't need to go for a lot of these runs where he goes in and he doesn't slide. He doesn't want to be Cam Newton. Cam Newton's out of the league at 32 years old, and he played the same way that Josh Allen did. But again, Josh Allen's a better thrower than Cam Newton ever was.
Cam Newton ran it more, but still.
Yeah, but same type of style. So he doesn't want to turn to him. And then NFC, I am going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have an axe to grind. He's going to play really pissed off this year. He's going to show everyone that the whole team was not really idiotic, but they had no faith in him. They wasted all these draft picks on Trey Lance. He's going to lead them to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. He's going to lead them to the NFC Championship game. They're going to lose the NFC Championship game because of coaching decisions by Kyle Shanahan. And they're going to have a big pickle on their mind when it comes to next year, what to do with Trey Lance. They're going to have to really try and bring back Jimmy, because the odds are coming back from an broken ankle. He may not be right for the beginning of the season. So
they're saying it's a less severe injury than Dak Prescott's, though, at least.
True.
So
but
Prescott had the complete break, but
yeah.
For me, like, I know sprained ankles, like my ankle, I sprained my ankle in volleyball years ago, and it's still not the same. So like coming back, granted they're professional athletes, I'm not, but like ankle injuries are tough to come back from, especially a break. But at least the good news prognosis is it wasn't as bad as Dak's, and Dak was able to come back and at least production wise pretty much picked up where he left off the previous year.
Yeah. And just the other thing to add on that is Jimmy Garoppolo is a winner. If he plays and he's healthy enough, I think he will win.
Okay, then. It kills me to say, but I think the Bills are going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. I don't think the only way they don't is Allen injury, which I think the way he played the first 2 weeks, sadly, it's possible. I'd hate to see that because someone of that talent you never want to see get hurt. You want to see the best players playing. But I think what we saw last year is inconsistencies in games of not only Allen, but just the team itself, which so far through 2 weeks, the they played the team that won the Super Bowl last year and killed them. And they played the number 1 seed in the AFC last year, kind of flawed, but still, and they killed them in the Titans. And
Titans were number 1 seed?
Titans were number 1 seed and had the bye last year.
God.
A lot of parity last year in the AFC.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is they've had 2 very impressive wins, but I think sometimes you get a lot of people, they kind of react to the moment and they react to big wins where as the season goes on, teams will figure out how to defend against certain teams and how to game plan as well. And I think that's something we might see. So I still think the Bills are going to be the number 1 seed, but I don't think it's 100% guarantee.
All right. Moving on.
Oh, and NFC.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Bucks. I think NFC is a lot weaker than it was last year, and I don't think the Rams have the same talent. I don't think they're going to be able to be the number 1 seed. Jimmy's going to get, even though I said he's going to play all 15 games, there's no guarantee he does. And Shanahan is a good coach throughout the course of the season, but in key games, he always finds a way to blow it. And they do have a lot of talent, but I still don't think the 49ers are, which leaves the Packers, which have gotten worse on offense, and Aaron Rodgers is a year older. So I'm going with Tom Brady, and I think they'll also make it to the Super Bowl again. I hope they don't win it because my father-in-law got me a Tom Brady picture that has like a mural type thing that has like all 7 of his Super Bowl rings. And if he wins an 8th, then it's kind of a little outdated, which I'd feel bad about. But right now I'm going with Tom Brady and the Bucks until Brady shows he can't do it.
I'm going to just say, based on everything he's doing this year, I'm going to think it's probably not going to happen with Tom, just by all the lack.
He looks like a different player this year. I've never seen him look this defeated and look this out of it.
And maybe
not on the play, not like his play. His play hasn't dropped, but yeah, his sideline, his demeanor during games, his demeanor during practice, during interviews and everything. I've never seen him. Even in 2019, his last year with the Patriots, where he was miserable, he didn't look like this.
Yeah, he just looks like he doesn't want to be there. So, and again, it could be something coming from Jiz at home, but we'll see. Next question, Lamar Jackson. Last year of his contract, and they never ended up signing contract extension. Likely, they're probably just going to tag him the next 2 years, but let's say hypothetically they're not going to tag him. Where is Lamar Jackson going to be quarterback, assuming he's not tagged next year?
So I think the place that would make the most sense, it's not going to happen, but would make the most sense is San Francisco 49ers, of him going into the Kyle Shanahan offense. I think Shanahan would be able to do wonders with him. And I think that would be where he would shine the most. But because they have Trey Lance coming back, they committed so much to him. I don't see him signing with the 49ers. And if they do, they'd have to move on from Trey Lance, which they traded 3 first-round picks to move up. And you're trading him at his lowest, where through two seasons, I think only 4 starts, limited play, and coming off a broken ankle, you're not going to get much return on him. So I don't see him going there. I'm going to go with, I guess, the obvious that everyone's going with, Miami Dolphins, of him going to, I think they're going to realize, I know Tua had a great week this past week, but I think they're going to realize he's not the guy for them. And they're going to move on and get Lamar Jackson and him in an offense with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and then a coach coming from the Shanahan style of offense and McDaniel. I think that's another place where he could shine.
All right. So I gave this a little bit of thought. And again, likely probably not going to happen anyway. He's probably going to get tagged
I think he's going to be tagged and stay with the Ravens, but that's my guess if he doesn't.
But let's say it doesn't happen. I kind of thought this through. I first thought the 49ers exactly like you did. He would work perfectly in that system. It'd be everything that they really want from Trey Lance, but not being Trey Lance. And but then again, they're not going to get rid of Trey Lance. They give too much draft capital. They're not going to be able to get anything in a trade for him. So obviously that's out. I was thinking there's a couple other teams out there. I'm not going to go with the Dolphins. I'm not going to go with the Giants because I think Jimmy Garoppolo is actually going to sign with the Giants in the offseason. I think they're going to be done with Daniel Jones after this year. What that leaves, though, is that it's going to be the Los Angeles Rams that's going to sign him. I think he's going to get tired of Stafford. He also comes from the Shanahan tree. And we saw already this offseason that they were looking at Jimmy Garoppolo to if he was cut by the 49ers. I think at the end of the year, they're going to be tired of Stafford. Something's going to happen with them. For some reason, the cap doesn't matter to them at all. They like to push out till years and years, and eventually it's going to catch up, but not next year. And they're going to sign Lamar Jackson to an insane contract.
I know they think the cap is crap, but the reason why that doesn't make sense is if you move on from him, he has a $49 million dead cap hit this year or next year, and then 36 million, 24 million. So just financially, I know they keep pushing it out, but that's just one that even for them, I don't
figure it away.
I don't know. So I think it makes like your reason. Oh, so sorry. Their dead cap money, if they get rid of him next year, is 75 million
from a trade.
Actually, no, if he's cut post June 1, it's only 20 million, but if it's pre-June 1, it's 75 million. If it's a trade post, it's 18.5 million, or pre, it's 74. I don't know how that's the case, but I guess if you cut him post June 1, it's not as big of a deal, or trade post June 1. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it's that drastic of $55 million pre or post, but
they'll make it happen. So
right, that's fair.
Last question, real quick. Who's going to be playing? No one really need to, because we've explained like 2 sentences. Who's going to be playing week 8 for the Steelers at quarterback, based on how bad we saw Mitch Trubisky the last 2 weeks?
I think it's Kenny Pickett, just because Trubisky has been bad, and they're in a division where right now it's close, and in week 8 it might be close. And if Trubisky keeps playing like he has, then I think they're going to feel like we'll go with the upside. But I think what's going to happen is they're going to go to Pickett, and then they're going to have to go back to Trubisky later on in the season.
Yep. I think what's going to happen is based off of the last 2 games where he really did nothing for Trubisky. And I think what would be best for them is they have a Thursday night game coming up this coming week. I think they use this week plus the extra time, so really 10 days to really prepare Pickett, and then have him play after this coming week. So I think it'll be Kenny Pickett.
Okay, that's fair.
All right.
I think it would be a little later on. I think they're going to want to, since he's a rookie, they want to give him as much time. But he did have a good preseason, so I wouldn't be shocked if that seems like the more logical place, if it's not a bye, is after a Thursday night game.
Yeah, their offense looks the best under Pickett. He can really drive the offense down the field, where Trubisky is really those short kind of plays where he checks down a lot, and that's not really something that's good for the offense. So I think they're going to realize that and kind of go from there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I will be at the game this coming Sunday, so I'll have a unique kind of perspective coming from the 300 section. That's where we get our name from. We'll kind of have that over the view angle, so we get to see really everything is going on from that. Again, subscribe, rate, and review. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter at Pat's 300 Level Pod, and then check us out on our website, Pats300levelpod.com. And also we're posting clips now on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, follow us on TikTok, Patriots 300 Level Podcast. It's also the at is at Pats 300 Level Pod, like everything else. So again, looking forward to talking to you next, guys, and hopefully we'll see a good Patriots victory over the Ravens.